Welcome back. It's time for another episode of Gear of the Week, and today we have wallets, pry tools, and some knives. A bunch to talk about, so let's go ahead and get started. Now we're going to start this with one of my favorite products I have ever purchased, and I mean ever. And that is the anti-wallet from a company called EDC Gear Co. Now these are made in America, and what appears to be relatively simplistic turns out to be a really well-designed piece of kit. Now what got me excited is that the anti-wallet was set up to have all your keys and everything all in one place and not have anything jingle. And I like that concept. Simple and elegant design. Now when I purchased it, first thing that I noticed is that the quality of elastic he's using is a lot higher than what I expected. And the fact that the seams are actually welded in addition to being stitched really makes everything kind of a step above. Now I found out through the purchasing of that they also have a little organizer that lets you put a pen and a flashlight in it. And this just slots right inside like so, like right underneath. Let me take this out for a second. And then you have your wallet organizer in addition to a wallet, or you can simply take it out when you're not needing it. I love that modularity of the system. Now I want to tell you a very brief story about what happened here. I started with this, and I was like, you know, this narrow passage didn't really accomplish what I was looking for because I usually carried a Victorinox manager and a flashlight. So I reached out to this gentleman on Instagram. Now this is the first time I had ever done that. You know, it was way before YouTube channel and everything like that. And I was blown away by his response. Not only did he get back to me quickly, he decided, well, that's a really cool idea. Let me send you some that are similar to that, because he wanted me to test it and give him some feedback. And he sent me 3 different iterations with different dimensions to see which one worked best. And I'm not saying he asked me to pay for it. I mean, he just sent them. And this is early in my time on YouTube and Instagram. I had like maybe 100 followers, not many things, you know? And that experience fundamentally changed my path. It's what kind of motivated me to reach out to a lot of other makers that I really enjoyed the products of and have those conversations. That's how I met Maxlvledc from EDC and many, many others. So you can actually credit EDC Gear Co. as being one of the catalysts to this entire channel. So if you want to say thank you to me that I've given you anything over the time, do me a favor, at least go check out this guy's website and see if any of these things could actually work for you. He's a small American maker. He does everything within his family, and then he hires some veteran staff seasonally to kind of accomplish making a little bit more from time to time. Definitely check out this company. I will leave a link to their page down below. And yeah, I just love it. In fact, they also have a little patch attachment, and I've been using it with the Wazoo patch with bits stored inside so that I have additional bits for my screwdriver, which I was taking with it. This is also one of those prototypes that has a slightly wider end. And then the other side has the flashlight. And this is actually the exact setup I took, or a similar setup, I took when I went to Blade Show Atlanta, because I could keep it in my pocket and it kind of had the adjustment tools, but also just a couple of things here and there, including a little Write in the Rain notebook. This is a great series of products. It's simple, it's elegant, it's got a good warranty, it's made here in America. Check it out. I think you're really going to like it. If you're like me, you're functional in nature, you like modular things, well, this is one of the products that got me started, and I just want to say a big thank you to this company and everything they do. Now, while the EDC Gear wallets were one of my first wallets, this is my most recent acquisitions. So Patriot Leather Goods reached out to me about a couple weeks ago and said, hey, I love your content, would like you to check it out. So they sent 2 wallets. So the first one is the Bradley, and the second one is the Ridgeway, I believe. And actually what's really nice is that he included some information to kind of talk about them, where they're made, the dimensions, and so on. So I really do appreciate that. And I want to show you what they have going on. So there's a lot of amazing makers out there making leather goods, and they're just so incredible. I don't know how anybody could go to a Macy's and get a wallet when you can get something like this. and it's just gonna be, it might even be cheaper than the one you buy in Macy's. So this is the Ridgeway. It's actually kind of a folded wallet with slight stitch at the bottom. And so you have a slot here for different cards here, and then a little flap to hold everything together. Now, I tried this wallet very briefly, and I found that it was just a little bit narrow for my needs. It was difficult to get the cash, which can normally just be straight in like this, just in and out without pulling out the cards at the same time. So what's really cool about the Ridgeway is they have this design, but they also look like they're going to be coming out with a slightly wider variation. I think they're going to call it the Ridgeline Max. So look for that coming in the future. But it's not my favorite. So this one will end up being given away, I think, probably on Instagram to kind of help him out. So this will be part of a future giveaway on Instagram. I'll be mentioning when that goes live in the community section on YouTube. The wallet, though, that really got me excited is this no-stitch wallet called the Bradley. And I've actually been carrying it for about a week, and it's already started to conform and lay flat and just get super awesome and patinaed. So this is that olive kind of leather, and it's just absolutely beautiful. So in the past, I've been carrying, let me grab it over here, this, which is from Arc Company, and I've been really enjoying the Boulder wallet. But what I found is, and people mentioned this when I did my everyday carry video, when you have a multi-tool, not a folding knife, a lot of the tools that I had in here were kind of redundant. So if I'm just carrying a folding knife, this is a great complement. But lately, this has been the only thing that I've carried besides a flashlight, which is now a new setup on my keys. So basically, this is my dangler for my key setup. I have the Victorinox custom jet setter with a little pen, so the pen is covered. So this kind of had me all set. And so this has been a really good change for me. Sorry, a lot of rattling going on over here. And this is just a damn near perfect design. So this package, the design, is probably not the most unique. There's a lot of no-fold wallets out there, but very few of them have everything all in one. So first and foremost, the price comes in under 50 bucks. That's great. You can get it in a bunch of different colors directly from their website. Also amazing. It's made in the United States and guaranteed for life. All of these things are great. And from a functional perspective, it does everything I want. So first of all, I have quick access to not one, but two cards that come into a slot right here. And on the inside, I have cash that I can keep bifolded. I have all of my cards, plenty of space to spare. I could fit a lot more cards in here or cash. And I even am able to keep my Write in the Rain notebook. So having the ability to have all those things is perfect. Now I can pull out the cash and I can quickly put it back in without any issues. In fact, this is one of my favorite designs for it. And then you just take the flap and stick it in like so, and you have no problems. What I realized is that there is an additional benefit to this design that is worth noting. So let's say you got a bunch of miscellaneous coins, cards, and everything else that you need to put away. You give some change and you need to put it somewhere, where a lot of people just have it kind of floating around in their pocket. You don't have to do that with this wallet. You just tuck it in behind the cards, just between the cash and the cards, and you can just throw everything in there because the flap is going to hold it all in. So I got a little 4mm bit in there, and then this stuff in there. And if I close it up and put it inside, as long as this flap is tight, it's not going anywhere. So I have a bunch of extra stuff, random stuff, that I can carry with this wallet. Now that is a very versatile modern design. So I gotta say the Bradley is probably my new favorite. In fact, it's so nice. I like this design, this concept so much. I might end up using it over either the Bruce from Get Set Gear or the slide wallet from Redeem Creations. Now, these are some of my absolute favorite leather wallets, maybe ever, that I've tried, genuinely. So when I say that it's probably even more convenient than that, that's saying something. Because like I said, I can hold the coins and I can do all that with this wallet. That's really nice. So I definitely think this is worth checking out, this style of design, but definitely check out Patriot Leather Goods. What a cool like series of products, and they have some unique designs like the Washington that I definitely want to get my hands on because I've just not seen anything quite like it out there. Let me know which one is your favorite design from this company. I'll leave the link to their website down below. So now we're going to move on to some knives, starting with a company called Remette. Now this company makes ultra budget knives, but they also make premium knives. And I like companies like that because it means you have all the techniques necessary to produce a good knife regardless of cost. Now starting with the first one, which is a true budget knife. This is the Rhino in D2 with a liner lock and a flipper tab thumb stud combination. And it also has these sort of millings that allow you to do the reverse flicking with very little issue. Detent on this is excellent. My biggest pet peeve with it, I'm just going to say it right off the bat, is that they didn't kind of cut down in the frame so that you had better lock bar access. That is a very important feature that I think every knife should have if it's a liner lock. You just have easy access. For anybody who might struggle, yeah, I think it's a good thing. Now they did, as you can see, kind of cut into the liners a little bit, which will help. But you don't even have to do that if it's just a little bit lower, right? So that would have been something they could have done quite easily. Other than that, I don't really have any qualms with the knife. I mean, it's the same blade design as the 14C variety. It came incredibly sharp out of the box. I like the shape of the blade as well. It also, okay, I guess one other negative is I'm not a huge fan of flipper tabs in large part because it cuts into handle real estate like it's doing right here. So I kind of can get there. I have a large size hands, but it does not really have a spot for choking up. So you're really kind of sliding off the handle just a little bit. Or if you have small hands, this will probably work great. It does have a reversible clip, which is nice. And currently this is falling just around that $30 price point, give or take, with the discounts. Now, I believe I also have a coupon code, so I'll be listing it here, as well as in the description as well. So you'll be able to find that, enter that, and potentially get even more off of your knife. So thanks to Remette for sending this out, and hopefully this will fit someone out there who's looking for a true budget knife. Now, that's a true budget knife, and it does come in, by the way, multiple colors, and inside the box you will get a T6, T8 adjustment tool. Let's talk about this thing right here. Now, this is a whole nother beast entirely. So we have a really fancy titanium milled pocket clip. We have this beautiful sort of pattern. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Stargate. I don't know why it reminds me of that Stargate kind of series, but it just does. It has that look to it. Really, really cool polish job on there. Titanium handles, titanium back spacer as well. Hidden lanyard spot, which I like. So that's all good. Crown spine on this M390 blade. Kind of interesting thumb studs. This is the one thing that I will say, I am not a huge fan of this style of thumb stud because it narrows out in the place I don't need it to. But I will say it does grip my fingers really well. So I don't feel like I'm sliding off the thumb stud in any way. So it's a give and take. You can reverse flick the knife if you're doing it on the thumb stud, but it's also got a fuller. If that's a little bit easier for you, you can do that. So I like that. Really nice, came sharp out of the box, and it has a proper spot for putting up your finger if you want to do a choke up position. This is a premium offering. So if you're getting this kind of knife, you're looking at it from a completely different perspective than you would the budget kind of setup. And so from a value perspective, you actually have a pretty good value with an all titanium handle with this sort of design. M390 blade steel, which is pretty awesome. You have a pivot collar there, and it looks like also sort of a collar design for the lock bar as well. So this is a crossbar style lock, which means it has Omega springs. Pretty good action on it. Not the best action, but pretty good. And the only thing I'm going to say about this is I think that the strength of those springs should definitely be stronger than they currently are. I think it would be a little snappier. It'll hold in a little bit more, and when you flick it out, you won't feel like you can fail as easy. You know, it'll really kind of catch. It's almost there. It just needs a little bit more detent. I don't know if that's the correct word, but it just needs a little bit more strength in that Omega spring, and I think it would make a big difference. Love the design though. Absolutely love this design. It does appear it has a reversible pocket clip, so that's really cool. And yeah, not much more to say. Really, really neat design. Whether you like the premium or the budget, let me know down in the comments. What is your preferred genre? I would be interested to see. If it's something that you want me to look at, I'll start looking at a few more premium offerings here and there. Now, I have been a huge fan of Vosteed, and that has started with the Nightshade and continued with the future designs that they had. I think the Racoon was one of the first ones that came out after the Nightshade. And the original design was one of my favorites. Great ergonomics, perfect size, 14C 28N, great price point as well. I think this one is in the micarta, the black micarta with the full steel liners. Fantastic, fantastic knife. Very, very smooth, absolutely excellent. And the modern iterations have one of the best lockups I've seen on a button lock. See that? It's almost like 60% all the way through. Now this makes it a little bit stickier, but I like that because it feels very secure. And I've tested this heavily with a spine whack test, no issues. One of the best ones out there. Now the new knife that I want to talk about is their recent introduction with aluminum handles. So this thing is exactly the same with the exception of the fact that it has a crossbar lock instead of a button lock. Very smooth action, I will say. And Nitro V instead of 14C 28N. Now I actually believe that 14C is probably a little bit better on paper, but I don't know if anyone's going to be able to discern the difference. I really don't know how many people could really tell me which one is 14C and which one is Nitro V. They are so similar in chemistry and the way they're done. They're just made by different people for the most part. And 14C has a little bit better properties, like it's a little bit tougher and so on, and a little bit more corrosion resistant. So you really can't tell the difference, but I think both are going to be good. Now, the one thing I'm going to pick on them a little bit about with this new design is the pocket clip. Now, you see this here? Comparing it to this one right here. Now, look at how low profile the original clip is. I can tell you that I've never had an issue getting this in my pocket, and it is the slimmest, flattest clip of anything out there. I mean, I don't know how many other people have said it. I know Metal Complex is a believer like I am. This is probably one of the best simple metal pocket clips I've seen on any knife. I just don't know why they changed it to this slightly larger build design. I don't have a problem with this, but why did they change this part? I don't know. Let me know down below. Does this even matter to you? But I've just caught too many clips on things randomly as I walk by to kind of ignore the fact that it feels like they've made a downgrade on the clip design. Just slightly, and I mean it's ever so slight, but just something that does kind of irk me. I don't know, were they getting complaints about the clip being too good? Is that what happened? Either way, it's still really good. It still has the clip insert, which is a really nice touch, makes it look a lot nicer. So this is completely reversible and ambidextrous, as is the original with the button lock. Which one do you prefer? Button lock, crossbar lock, this clip or that clip, or micarta versus aluminum? And the aluminum, I will say, the aluminum with these little cutouts is much, much nicer than if it was just plain. A lot more grippy, and I gotta say the ergonomics are probably a little bit better on the aluminum variety. For whatever reason, it's just a little bit more contoured. With that, you let me know which one you would pick given the choice. Speaking of aluminum handles, check out this beautiful piece from Civivi. So I just got this from them about a week ago. I've been playing with it a little bit. It's called the Stormhowl. Now, this is a button lock with a flipper tab, which is actually a little bit more difficult to do than a standard button lock because you have to kind of have this come around the button. And I gotta say, I am in absolute love with this knife. Of all the knives on the table today, this has the best ergonomics. It's a relatively simple design, but my hand feels like it is completely and utterly locked in on this knife. Absolutely adore it. Now, I also am thankful that they didn't make the blade too thick, so they've done a pretty good job The detent and the action on this, phenomenal. It makes also a really satisfying noise. And just awesome. Now, I don't have any critiques. Look, Civivi's been around for a while. They've kind of perfected their thing. They just have slightly different designs here and there. But yeah, the clip, you know, same things have been said forever. It doesn't need that little lip. The knives we just talked about from Vosteed have much better clips, but it's still manageable. The button lock on this, you can see the lockup is once again really good here, about 50 to 60%, so really solid, and I did test it. It does pass the spine whack test, at least my version does. And this cutout. Okay, so aluminum scales, I always have a problem with them because they're so slippery. But I like the new micro textures that so many companies are putting on their knives. And not only does it look really awesome, it's functional. It does offer some grip. Now, these are not sharp. In fact, I could use even a little bit more grip, but they definitely offer a little something, especially when it's wet or your hands are oily. You want some extra grip. Now, this is not going to be as big of an issue with a flipper tab because it kind of stops your hand from sliding up on the blade, but it can be more of an issue for knives that don't have, well, this. Now, this one, and it's not your eyes deceiving you, that's actually a black finish. I know it's kind of trippy, right? It's a black finish. It's not something that you're missing. So if I put, like, let me put this on the table again, you can kind of see that they actually are a black finish on it. Not all the blades have it, but I like the way they've done it with the black version of it, having that, that change in coloration. If I could make one improvement to this design, it would be to have some sort of fuller, some sort of shelf cutout so that I can do this, which I can technically do. Like, it's not easy, but it's doable. If I put enough pressure, I can definitely reverse flick the knife. But it was begging for it. It was like that last little step in the whole thing. Being able to have multiple ways to deploy it would be really nice. Now, obviously, you can use the button, which you certainly can, and the flipper, and they have nailed, and I say they have really perfected their detent on this one. Like, their button locks have gotten better and better and better. I noticed when I got the Cogent update, they have just made super, like, they've just continued to improve on the spring tensions and everything. And this one is another, just perfectly dialed. It's exactly the way a button lock should be. It's got enough tension on it. It doesn't feel like you could fail it easily. Like, I'm actually having a hard time causing it to fail. Ah, got it. All right. Now, it's really hard. That's because they've just really gotten the detent just right. This is an excellent knife. I don't know what else to say. Excellent knife. If this appeals to you, I think you'll like it. I have large size hands, and this is basically like contoured to my hand almost perfectly. If you have bigger hands, I think you're gonna have problems. You can see it, I'm just on the edge of where that point is. So it's perfect for my hands. But if you have really big hands, I think it might be a little bit too small for you. That's just kind of where I'm sitting with this. I don't have anything else to say. You know, when it comes to Civivi, they pretty much nail it every single time. I was hoping that the exact blade length was here, but I'll list it right below. I'm pretty pleased with this design. Yeah, enough said. Good job from Civivi. Another excellent offering. Now we're going to move on to some rather, well, odd tools. And all of them are Pry tools, but they have a lot more going for them than just that. And this first one I actually backed on Kickstarter. And I wanted to see, well, first of all, whether they would deliver at all, but I also was kind of curious about a couple of different features that it included, and I wanted to see how they worked in practicality. So the first thing is, of course, it's a pry tool, but it's very, very thick. Now, I couldn't tell from the pictures, but the fact that they off-centered the pry tool makes it way, way more useful. So good job on that. This actually will function for its original purpose. It has a little hex hole right here. It has a ratcheting driver right there, and then it has an inline bit driver right there. Now, the other cool thing that this has, and I thought was really cool and why I backed it, is this little extension that slides right into the frame. And this allows you to extend the bit a little bit further, and then we are ready to rock and roll. So you have an inline bit driver, and that's actually kind of neat. So I like that. I like that design. I thought that was pretty cool. It also is sort of an added bonus that you can kind of use it as a pseudo fidget toy. Kind of reminds me of a worry stone, honestly. So I don't know. I don't think that was what it was meant for, but I kind of think that's kind of cool. It's really easy to pull out one of these bits, and let's be honest, you're not going to carry 6 bits. You're going to have the 5, and then that's what you're going to keep it with, because if you try to put this in your pocket, guess what? It's going to poke you, and that's no good. So that's all pretty cool and pretty, good, and I'd say it wasn't really a bad purchase. The one thing I will say that is definitely not great is the bit driver. Now it's not so, the ratcheting driver, and the reason it's not so good is, see how much twist there is in it before it finally clicks? There's just too much play in it. It just needs a slightly higher quality ratchet that has less gaps in the mechanism, and I think it would work. Now the way this is set up is if I'm going like this, it'll turn left, and then if I want to go right, I flip it over and I go the other direction. So I don't have a problem with the way it functions. I don't even have a problem with it being a pass-through variety, because it lets you actually go onto a larger hex bit and slide down and use it for additional torque. So I don't have a problem with any of that. I just don't think the ratchet is particularly high quality. Other than that problem, I would say pretty decent offering. It's sort of a I would say a pretty impractical tool, right? It's for a very limited audience of people like me who likes gadgets. But the fact that it is a compact package, the principle of it, I think is really enticing. I think that having the bit extension built in is really nice. I like the 5-bit setup, the prying tool, the inline driver, and the ratchet. As long as they execute the ratchet a little bit better, I think that this will be a really good tool. Even without it though, it still functions, and the inline driver is really what I want. So rather, one of two things need to happen. Either they can get rid of the ratchet entirely and add additional 2 or 3 bits, which actually they could easily, if they made this less of an angle and just a smaller piece, they could easily get 2 more in here, which I would prefer, or they can improve on the ratchet design. That's just the way I feel about this thing. Overall, I'm not disappointed with my purchase. Actually, this is one of the better things that I've gotten off Kickstarter thus far, and it's just a really neat tool. I'll leave a link down below if I can find a website, but I don't even know if it's up yet. Next tool I want to show you is called the Prytium. Okay, I think that's how we're going to call it that. It's made by a company called GSG. They contacted me and I said, hey, do you want to check this out? And it is interesting looking, and I thought this would be a cool one to show people and get some opinions. So it is obviously a prying tool, but it's designed to have a little bit more functionality than just that. So we have stored in it 2 4mm bits, and where these are used is right here on this driver. So it gives you sort of a pseudo 90-degree setup. And it has an additional bit driver that is inline, and we'll talk about that one in just a minute. Now I did find with this, it's a little bit flimsy, the fiddly to get it in so that they lay flat and then the latch comes back over. Now this also has a milled titanium pocket clip, so that's kind of cool. And it has a glass breaker on the back and a full-sized 1/4-inch bit driver that is inline. In addition, it also has a one-handable kind of scalpel blade holder. Now this is a number 11, I believe, scalpel blade holder. Pretty common to find these. Cool, I like it, but I've seen this exact combination in a much smaller package. And if I were doing this, if I were making one, it would be about half this size and in dimension this way. And I would get rid of things that I don't necessarily need. The other problem I have is you have a 4mm set of bits here, but I really need them to work in line versus at a weird angle. It's great that you have a 1/4-inch driver, but without storing 1/4-inch bits, does that make all that much sense? I don't know if it does. Maybe I'm wrong. You also have, of course, I think this is a 1/4-inch holder as well, which is also a bottle opener. but I think that this is actually set up to work kind of as a can opener as well. I'm gonna have to test it. We'll have to see if it actually works, because it kind of thins out in that manner, and it has like a true curve to it. So it's possible that this might actually work as a can opener as well. Now, if I were to redo it again, I would keep that sort of geometry. I would just make it narrower in design. Overall, I think it's one of the most interesting things that I've had on the table, but it's not particularly useful. This little spot that's supposed to be for as a file, the little spikes, because of the finish, are just too far apart and just not very sharp. So it doesn't really do what it's supposed to do. Yeah, overall, very interesting, cool gadget. I gotta say, it's just not going to be something that I would use, but maybe it is for you. Someone, I'm sure, is going to end up winning this in the near future. But overall, I think that I like seeing companies try new things. That doesn't always mean we have to, though. This is one of those question marks for me. Is there someone who can see value in it? That's the real question. Let me know down in the comments. Now, this holds a lot more appeal for me personally. I think first of all, sizing of it. It's a lot smaller, a lot narrower, a lot like easier to carry than other prying tools. So already we're in a pretty good spot. Now, this has a couple of things that I want to point out. Now, I've already tried the Phillips head driver. We'll talk about that in a minute. It has a little hex holder, bottle opener, a not quite one-handable scalpel blade holder. So this is once again a number 11. And I really like it because it's so narrow, it works very much like a craft blade. So I like that. That's really cool. And on the back, we have a prying tool with a little notch. I'm not huge on the notch thing when it comes to titanium, so you know that about me, because it does create weak points. And this is a relatively brittle metal that can benefit from just not having that, but it's fine. You're probably not using it to really pull out nails, mostly staples and that kind of thing. This also has magnetic storage for a 4mm bit, which you can see right there. And in order to get it out, you kind of have to tap it. I haven't found any other way to do so. And then it actually has a spot for it in line, so you can use it in sort of a T-handle. Now, I can see with this design, it would be very difficult, if not impossible, to make an inline driver. I'm not actually upset at how they've integrated this, but you know, it's pretty cool, and the price was really attractive. So I really liked it for the price, and that's pretty much why it's here. Now, one thing I will say that they could do without is this Phillips driver. I've seen this before, and I'll say it once, I'll say it again. Titanium does not do well with that kind of mechanical leverage on thin pieces like this. And with just one small use, you can already see damage happening to this Phillips driver. It's just not a good function for titanium. That's why we don't have titanium screwdrivers, I would imagine, unless you work in a very specific type of environment where you need it. This is really compelling without that. If you just take this off and just leave the bottle opener, this is already a pretty compelling package. If they made it, instead of angled, which is super silly, this straight like this, and had a proper prying tool instead of this weird angle without the notch, and well, got rid of all of this because I don't know what that's doing there. I think this would be a fantastic small prying tool for not that much money. I think that the addition to the scalpel holder, if you had just scalpel holder, bottle opener, driver, and pry tool in this narrow, slim package, I mean, like, look at it compared to this thing, right? Or the other one we just talked about. So if we bring in the, what do they call it, Prytanium here, look at the difference in size between these two, right? Big difference, big difference. This is relatively easy to install in any like pocket organizer, in even a pen slot, whereas this has to dedicate a lot of space. That's kind of the thing with pry tools. If it's going to be big, it better be really good at what it does, because you're going to have to dedicate a lot more space. Let me know, which is your favorite of those three down in the comments. And here we are, everything that we covered today in this video. Which is your favorite? Which would you like me to expand on? and talk about more. I've been really enjoying making this series. It has been a way to show a lot of different gear all at once, and there's actually a playlist for it that you will find linked down below in the description. As always, thank you guys so much for your time, and we'll talk again soon.